Hey everybody, this is Michael Mann from Michael Mann Security Services, and this is a podcast dedicated to helping you protect the people and things you love most. And remember, it's about prevention, not response.
Well, I know it can be confusing when you go to start shopping for a handgun. Man, there's so many options out there. You probably don't know the difference between a 40 and a 9mm and the various things that are out there. Should you get a revolver? Should you get a Glock? Should you get a Smith & Wesson? All the various things out there. And then there's attachments, things like Crimson Trace lasers and extended magazines. There's so many options out there. Well, we're going to help you simplify this today, help you choose the right kind of handgun for you. Michael, this is a big subject, but it can be simple, and that's what we're going to do today. So let's talk about handguns. How do you go about making the choice for that?
Yeah. So first, you brought this up, some of it. So basically, two types. We're looking at revolvers and semi-automatics, or semi-automatic handguns. So the difference between the two, the revolver, basically is the ammunition source is a cylinder, which means if you think about this cylinder, it's a circle, and you load these.
The classic Wild West handgun look.
Yes, exactly, like the cowboy guns,
Yep.
right? Where you're loading the bullets into a cylinder.
Or the Russian roulette sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't know much about handguns, that's exactly what a revolver is. You can go up online and look it up. And so that's a revolver. So cool thing is the barrel is fixed. They're very, very accurate, and you have very little or very few malfunctions with a revolver.
Not a lot to it.
Not a lot to it. It's very, very easy.
And they're pretty powerful.
They can be, depending on which revolver you get. You're exactly right. Bad thing is they are, or what some people consider to be cons, limited on the number of rounds you can shoot before you have to reload.
What is it, 6?
It is 6, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got some smaller revolvers that carry 5 rounds, but the majority is going to be 6 rounds. So limited capacity when we talk about ammo. You're going to have, unlike a Glock semi-automatic handgun that pretty much covers all calibers, with a revolver, you're going to be, most of the time with revolvers you would want to carry for defense, you're going to be limited to 38 or 357.
So let me keep playing the devil's advocate here for people who are just completely clueless about this. You use the word caliber.
Mm-hmm.
You say it covers all calibers, talking
Yeah.
about a semi-automatic. Well, what is a caliber?
Yeah, so basically caliber just going to be the size, for just a layperson, the size of the round. And so there's always a bunch of argument about the biggest is the best. We talked about this in a podcast before. It's not that the biggest is the best. It's that it's the number of hits that I'm able to get on the target to stop it. And, of course, the most important thing is prevention, seeing a problem before it becomes a problem. So,
What are the calibers, then, that are most popular?
Yeah, most popular calibers today are going to be 9mm, 40 caliber, or 45 caliber.
And what goes in what?
Yeah, so 9mm, which is, I will tell you, if you ask me the question, I would tell you to go buy a 9mm semi-automatic handgun right now. Reasons for that: number one, lower amount of recoil, which means it's easier to absorb that recoil when you shoot the pistol. Number two, right now,
So not a lot of kickback.
Yeah, not a lot of what people consider kick, right? Mm-hmm. So that's recoil. So when you press the trigger of the pistol, because of the function of the gun, what's going to happen is when that goes off, that explosion happens in the gun, there's going to be recoil, or like what people call kick. 2, 9mm ammunition is like dirt cheap right now, like 16, 17 cents a round. So you can load up on it right now, and it's everywhere.
Why is it so cheap?
It's just so there's a lot of it that's been made here lately, especially the popularity of carry permits, and especially today with guns. And it's just been around a long time too. And the cool thing about 9mm is it's not just the United States that uses that. There's other countries, especially police forces and military units, that use that ammunition. So it's cheap because, number one, it's very popular, and number two, because it is everywhere.
All right, so you got the 9mm.
Yep.
The 40 is what you talked about after that. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so it is a larger caliber. So when we start talking about diameter or size, it is bigger.
A bigger hole.
Yeah.
When you shoot somebody, maybe.
Yeah. So it could, and again, this is not a ballistic discussion, but so it is a bigger round, or it is a bigger projectile. It is what some people call like a 10mm short. And so you're going some things about the 40, it's more expensive. In fact, it's pretty expensive right now. When you shoot a pistol, or you fire a pistol with 40 caliber ammunition, you're going to have more recoil. And because it is more expensive, you're probably not going to get to shoot as much. Yeah. So not as a popular round today as it was, say, 10 years ago. About 20 years ago, a lot of law enforcement agencies went to 40 caliber. They're now going back to 9mm. So because it's a little bit more expensive to make, it's going to be more expensive, for you to buy it.
All right, so somebody needs to buy a handgun. What are some considerations they should take in, for their own sake?
Yeah. So, what are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable with the cylinder? Are you comfortable with the magazine? That's the difference between the revolver and the semi-automatic. Second thing I would look at is, what are you going to use the pistol for? Look, if your mom or dad at home and it's just something you've got in the nightstand, just in case the boogeyman comes in the middle of the night, you don't know a lot about handguns, you don't want to spend a lot of time with them. A really good revolver is probably going to work for you as long as you are trained with that weapon and you learn how to use it. You go somewhere up to a professional that can teach you how to use that weapon.
Now, revolvers don't have safeties on them, is that correct?
No, they do not.
There's no way to really pull a trigger or a button or lock it in and say you can't fire this. I mean, if you've got a bullet in that cylinder for the revolver and you pull the trigger, I mean, it's going to fire a bullet.
Absolutely. For the layperson, you're correct. When you look at revolvers, there's not what we consider an external safety, but you have a very, very long trigger pull on the revolver. So basically, as you start to press that trigger, it's cocking the hammer for you back, and then that hammer.
You can even literally see it going back.
You can, and you can thumb cock. That's not what it's designed to do, but you can actually.
That's
thumb
the
cock
classic.
The hammer.
The
classic
Billy the
cowboy.
Kid,
Yeah, so like
out.
fanning it. Yes, right. So some people believe that revolvers are safer because of that long trigger pull. And it's consistent. That trigger pull is always going to be consistent.
Whereas with semi-automatics, you don't see a lot of the stuff that's going on within the gun itself.
Correct, especially today with striker-fired pistols, where basically that function of that hammer with the striker is internal, so you don't see that.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay, so body size is probably another thing you want to consider when you're choosing a handgun. For smaller people, I know my sisters. They're not carrying big 40s.
No.
They've got these. In fact, you can even get smaller than a 9. And talk about that, too, because I think a lot of women choose smaller guns that go in their purses.
Yeah. So just, again, for the layperson listening, the smaller the pistol and the caliber, one for sure, especially if you start to get less or lower than a 9mm, like a 38 like a 380, 32 caliber. When we start talking about these small calibers,
you're talking about a little gun.
Yeah, these are little pistols, and so the smaller the pistol, the harder it is. The harder it really is to manipulate that gun. So when you've got these tiny guns, it takes really, really tiny hands to manipulate the gun. And look, marksmanship is easy. Fighting with the gun is running the gun, keeping the gun going, driving the gun like a car. The smaller the pistol, the more difficult it's going to be to drive the gun.
That's why I think smaller people are going to things like 380s. My sisters, for instance, in their purse, it's like there's a 380.
Yeah.
Now a 380 would be like a little bit of my hand and 3 of my fingers.
Yeah, it's like a little water gun.
I wouldn't be able to get my hand around it.
Yeah.
But some 9s are a good size, and a 40 definitely.
Yes. So there's a trade-off always between size, stopping power, or what the gun magazines talk about, stopping power, ballistics, and the ability to conceal that handgun.
Stopping power being stopping the person coming at you when we say stopping power.
Exactly. But again, I want everybody to understand, doesn't matter if you're carrying a 45, a 44, or even something as small as a 9 or smaller like a 9mm. It's not necessarily about the size of the round. It's going to be how many hits you get on target. And really statistically as a person, people when they have to use force, very specifically deadly force, it happens very quickly. And average rounds fired are 1 to 2 rounds anyway.
Yeah.
So it's all about hits.
You're not in a firefight for 10 minutes.
No, actually, no one is, unless you're in the military.
Yeah.
And you know this, Stephen.
Yeah, I've been there.
Then that's not what it looks like. Even
in those moments when you're in those firefights, even those fly by so fast.
They go quickly.
You could be in a 5-minute firefight and it feels like an hour. But
they go quickly.
You come out and you go, wait, it's over?
Yeah. Even police today, a police gunfight or a police shooting lasts a couple seconds. It's very close. It happens very quickly. It's not extended.
The only things probably that last a long time are like hostage situations.
Yeah, and that's not shooting.
And that's not shooting.
Yeah, that's a lot of strategy and talking. And so the smaller that pistol, the more difficult it's going to be to manipulate that handgun, load it, unload it. If there's a problem with it, fixing that problem. So do you like the revolver? Do you like the cylinder? Or do you like the semi-automatic with the magazine that loads in the magazine? Well, that's your ammunition source, and depending on the size of the pistol, you can carry more ammunition. But understand, really, the idea behind carrying the more ammunition is not to shoot more. It's so I don't have to manipulate the weapon more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I hope this has helped you decide on what kind of handgun you might prefer for yourself. You can find out more at michaelmannsecurityservices.com. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll see you next time.